Clint Eastwood Jr. was born on May 31, 1930 in San Francisco, California at St. Francis Memorial Hospital, weighing an astonishing 11 pounds 6 ounces, so large that the nurses nicknamed him Samson. The United States was just beginning to feel the full grip of the Great Depression, and the Eastwood family, like millions of others, would spend the next decade moving from town to town in search of steady work. His father, Clint Eastwood, was a bond salesman and later a manufacturing executive for Georgia-Pacific, while his mother, Ruth Runner, worked various jobs before eventually becoming an IBM systems analyst and still later in life a celebrated homemaker and artist. Clint also had a younger sister, Jonna, born in 1934. The Eastwood family was itinerant throughout Clint's childhood. They lived in Piedmont, Sacramento, and finally settled in the affluent Bay Area suburb of Piedmont, where young Clint attended Piedmont High School. He was not an exceptional student and showed little interest in academics. Tall, lanky, and athletic, he excelled more on the basketball court and in the swimming pool than in the classroom. He played piano and developed an early love for jazz, especially bebop and the music of artists like Lester Young and Charlie Parker, which would remain a lifelong passion. Eastwood was also a self-described juvenile delinquent in his own words. He was expelled from Piedmont High for writing an obscene suggestion on the athletic field scoreboard and for setting fire to a piano. He finished his secondary education at a technical school in Oakland and never attended college. After high school, Eastwood drifted through a series of odd jobs: lifeguard at Fort Ord, paper carrier, forest firefighter, grocery clerk, and steel mill worker. In 1951, during the Korean War, he was drafted into the U.S. Army. Stationed at Fort Ord, California, he served as a swimming instructor and bouncer at the NCO Club, never seeing combat. It was during his military service that he met future Hollywood figures such as David Johnson and Martin Mulner, and began to think seriously about acting. Eastwood's entry into acting was almost accidental. In 1954, while visiting a friend at CBS Studios, he was spotted by an assistant director who suggested he take a screen test at Universal Studios. He signed a contract for $75 a week and appeared in tiny, often uncredited roles in low-budget films such as Revenge of the Creature, 1955, and Tarantula, 1955, both early entries in the science fiction horror cycle. He also appeared in Francis in the Navy, 1955, with a talking mule. Universal dropped him in 1955 after deciding he had an Adam's apple that was too prominent, spoke too slowly, and had a chipped tooth. For the next few years, Eastwood survived by digging swimming pools and driving a garbage truck while taking acting classes at night. In 1958, a small but steady role came his way: Rowdy Yates, the young ramrod on the CBS Western series Rawhide. The show, which ran from 1959 to 1965, became a major hit, and Eastwood, initially a supporting player, eventually became the de facto star after Erich Fleming, the original lead, left the series. Rawhide gave Eastwood national recognition and taught him the value of discipline on a weekly television schedule, experience that would later serve him well as a director. In 1963, while Rawhide was still on the air, Eastwood received an offer that would change his life. An Italian director named Sergio Leone wanted him for the lead in a low-budget western to be shot in Spain. The script, originally titled The Magnificent Stranger, was a remake of Akira Kurosawa's Yojimbo. Eastwood was offered $15,000 and a new Mercedes. He accepted partly because the character fascinated him, a laconic, cigar-chewing drifter known only as the man with no name. A Fistful of Dollars, 1964, was a sensation in Europe and later in America. Shot on a shoestring budget with a mostly Italian crew speaking little English, the film introduced a new kind of Western hero: cynical, amoral, stylish, and brutally efficient. Eastwood designed the character's iconic look himself: the flat-crowned hat, the sheepskin vest, the serape, the perpetual half-smoked cheroot. Leone followed with For a Few Dollars More, 1965, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, 1966, completing the trilogy that made Eastwood an international superstar and redefined the Western genre. The Dollars trilogy grossed hundreds of millions of dollars worldwide and turned Eastwood into a cultural icon. Back in Hollywood, the major studios still viewed him with suspicion. He was seen as a European phenomenon, not a real American star. Undeterred, Eastwood used his new leverage to form Mulpusa Productions in 1967, named after a creek on his property in Monterey County, and began producing his own films. His first American starring role after the Leone trilogy was Hang 'Em High, 1968, a gritty revenge western that proved he could succeed on home soil. Cuggan's Bluff, 1968, directed by Don Sugd, marked the beginning of a crucial creative partnership. Sugd would direct 5 Eastwood films, including 2 masterpieces: Dirty Harry, 1971, and Escape from Alcatraz, 1979. Released in December 1971, Dirty Harry was a cultural earthquake. Eastwood played San Francisco police inspector Harry Callahan, a cop willing to bend or break the rules to stop a psychopathic killer. The film's politics were incendiary. It was accused of being fascist, racist, and reactionary. Critics like Pauline Kael despised it, audiences adored it. The movie grossed over $36 million domestically on a $4 million budget and spawned 4 sequels. The character of Harry Callahan, tough, sardonic, armed with a .44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, become one of the most recognizable figures in cinema history. Eastwood followed Dirty Harry with a string of commercial successes. Joe Cud 1972, High Plains Drifter 1973, his first Western as director, and Magnum Force 1973, the first Dirty Harry sequel. Thunderbolt and Lightfoot 1974, directed by Michael Cimino, showed Eastwood's willingness to play against type as an aging bank robber opposite Jeff Bridges. The Enforcer 1976, the third Dirty Harry film, introduced a female partner, Tyne Dulla, and proved the franchise still had legs. In 1975, Eastwood acquired the rights to a novel called The Rebel Outlaw. Jessa Wales by Forrest Carter, later revealed to be Usa Carter, a former Ku Klux Klan member, a fact Eastwood claims he was unaware of at the time. Originally hired only to star, Eastwood fired director Philip Kaufman after creative differences and took over the reins himself. The Outlaw Jessa Wales 1976 is widely considered one of the greatest westerns ever made. A revisionist epic about a Missouri farmer turned Confederate guerrilla seeking revenge after his family is murdered, the film is violent yet deeply humanistic, exploring themes of loss, redemption, and the possibility of peace in a fractured nation. It was a major critical and commercial success and marked Eastwood's arrival as a serious director. He followed with The Gauntlet 1977, a violent action comedy with Sandra Locke, and Every Which Way But Loose 1978, an unexpected smash hit co-starring an orangutan named Clyde. The film, which Eastwood made partly as a joke, became the biggest hit of his career up to that point and spawned a sequel, Any Which Way You Can 1980. Critics were baffled by its popularity, but audiences loved Eastwood's easygoing, self-deprecating humor. Bronco Billy 1980, a gentle comedy about a modern-day cowboy running a failing Wild West show, showed Eastwood's sentimental side and remains one of his personal favorites. The 1980s saw Eastwood deepen both as actor and director. Firefox 1982 was a Cold War thriller that allowed him to helm a big-budget effects picture. Honky Tonk Man 1982, set during the Depression, featured Eastwood as a dying country singer traveling to Nashville with his nephew, played by his real-life son Kyle. It was a box office disappointment, but is now regarded as one of his finest performances. Sudden Impact 1983, the fourth Dirty Harry film, gave the world the immortal line, "Go ahead, make my day." Tightrope 1984, another collaboration with writer-producer Richard Tuggle, was a dark, sexually charged thriller that pushed boundaries with its exploration of a cop's personal demons. Pale Rider 1985, Eastwood's return to the Western was a deliberate homage to Shane, with Eastwood playing a mysterious preacher who protects a mining community. It was a major hit and reaffirmed his mastery of the genre. Heartbreak Ridge 1986, about a grizzled Marine sergeant preparing recruits for Grenada, won the Academy Award for Best Sound but drew criticism for its portrayal of the military. City Heat 1984 with Burt Reynolds and the Dead Pool 1988, the final Dirty Harry entry, were lesser efforts. The turning point came with Bird 1988, Eastwood's tribute to jazz saxophonist Charlie Parker. Starring Forrest Whitaker, the film was a labor of love shot in 52 days and earned universal praise, winning the Academy Award for Best Sound and the Grand Prix at Cannes for Whitaker's performance. White Hunter Blackheart 1990, a thinly veiled portrait of John Huston during the making of The African Queen, showcased Eastwood's growing confidence behind the camera. The Rookie 1990 with Charlie Sheen was a misfire. Unforgiven 1992 changed everything. Dedicated to Sergio and Don, the film was Eastwood's definitive statement on the Western genre. He had purchased the script in the late 1970s and waited until he was old enough to play William Money, a retired gunslinger drawn back into violence. Co-starring Gene Hackman, Morgan Freeman, and Richard Harris, Unforgiven deconstructed the myths of the Old West with unflinching honesty. It grossed $160 million worldwide and won 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director for Eastwood. At age 62, he finally received the industry recognition many felt was long overdue. The critical momentum continued. In The Line of Fire 1993, directed by Wolfgang Petersen, gave Eastwood one of his best acting roles as an aging Secret Service agent haunted by his failure to prevent JFK's assassination. A Perfect World 1993, which he directed and co-starred in with Kevin Costner, explored the relationship between a fugitive and a kidnapped boy. The Bridges of Madison County 1995, adapted from the best-selling novel, paired Eastwood with Meryl Streep as a National Geographic photographer who has a brief, passionate affair with an Iowa housewife. Many were skeptical that Eastwood could play a romantic lead opposite Streep, but the film was a critical and commercial triumph, proving his versatility. Absolute Power 1997, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil 1997, and True Crime 1999 were ambitious but uneven. Space Cowboys 2000, a light-hearted adventure with Tommy Lee Jones, James Garner, and Donald Sutherland, was a late-career crowd-pleaser. The new millennium saw Eastwood enter the most celebrated phase of his directorial career. Mystic River 2003, adapted from Dennis Lehane's novel, featured career-best performances from Sean Penn, Tim Robbins, and Laura Linney. It earned 6 Oscar nominations, with Penn and Robbins winning Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor. Million Dollar Baby 2004 was another masterpiece. Originally conceived as a starring vehicle for Sandra Bullock, Eastwood took over the lead role of a grizzled boxing trainer opposite Hilary Swank and Morgan Freeman. The film, which dealt with euthanasia and the limits of human endurance, won 4 Academy Awards: Best Picture, Best Director Eastwood's second, Best Actress Swank, and Best Supporting Actor Freeman. Flags of Our Fathers 2006 and Letters from Iwo Jima 2006 formed an extraordinary diptych about the Battle of Iwo Jima, told from American and Japanese perspectives. Letters, shot entirely in Japanese, earned a Best Picture nomination and is widely considered one of the greatest war films ever made. Changeling 2008 with Angelina Jolie, Gran Torino 2008, in which Eastwood played a bigoted Korean War veteran who finds redemption protecting his Hmong neighbors, and Invictus 2009 with Morgan Freeman as Nelson Mandela and Matt Damon as Francois Pinard, continued his late-career hot streak. Hereafter 2010, J. Edgar 2011 with Leonardo DiCaprio as Hoover, and Jersey Boys 2014 were respectable but not on the level of his previous decade's work. American Sniper 2014, based on Navy SEAL Chris Kyle's memoir, became the highest-grossing film of Eastwood's career and the highest-grossing war film in history unadjusted, earning 6 Oscar nominations including Best Picture. Sully 2016 with Tom Hanks as Captain Chesley Sullenberger, The 15, 17 to Paris 2018, starring the real-life heroes who stopped a terrorist on a train, and The Mule 2018, in which Eastwood played a 90-year-old drug courier loosely based on Leo Sharp, showed he still had commercial instincts. Richard Jewell 2019, about the security guard wrongly accused in the 1996 Olympic bombing, and Cry Macho 2021, a gentle neo-western filmed when Eastwood was 91, were quieter efforts but reaffirmed his enduring work ethic. In 2024, at age 94, Eastwood directed Juror No. 2, a legal thriller starring Nicholas Hoult and Toni Collette. As of 2025, he continues to develop new projects. Eastwood has been married twice, to Maggie Johnson 1953-1984, with whom he has 2 children, Kyle and Allison, and to Dina Ruiz 1996-2014, with whom he has 1 daughter, Morgan. He also has several other children from relationships outside marriage, including Scott and Catherine with Jacelyn Reeves and Francesca with Titanic actress Frances Fisher. In total, he is known to have at least 8 children. His romantic life has often been tabloid fodder, particularly his long relationship with actress Sandra Locke, 1975-1989, which ended acrimoniously with lawsuits. Politically, Eastwood has described himself as a libertarian. He was elected mayor of Carmel-by-the-Sea, California in 1986, serving 1 term and focusing on relaxing restrictive building codes and promoting tourism. He spoke at the 2012 Republican National Convention in a famous empty chair dialogue with an imaginary President Obama, which became a viral moment. As of 2025, Clint Eastwood has appeared in over 60 films and directed 41. He has won 5 Academy Awards, 2 for directing, 1 for producing, 2 honorary, 5 Golden Globes, and countless other honors, including the Irving G. Thalberg Memorial Award and the Kennedy Center Honors. He redefined screen masculinity, first as the silent, violent man with no name, then as the rule-breaking Harry Callahan, and finally as the wise, regretful elder statesman of films like Unforgiven and Gran Torino. As a director, he evolved from efficient craftsman to one of America's most respected auteurs, often compared to John Ford or Howard Hawks. At 95, Clint Eastwood remains the last living link to the classical Hollywood era who is still actively working at the highest level. His influence on cinema, on acting, directing, genre filmmaking, and the very idea of what a movie star can be is incalculable. He once said, "I tried being reasonable, I didn't like it." That contrarian spirit, combined with relentless discipline and an almost monk-like dedication to his craft, has made Clint Eastwood not just a star but an enduring American myth.